Hi, I'm Ray Baker. I'm Director of Sidney EMS. I started as the board president when we first formed, and then after a few years decided my best role would be to be the director of Sidney EMS. I have lived in Sidney since I got out of high school in Walton, joined the fire department in my early 20s and worked for the village of Sidney for 20 years. So I took a real personal interest in Sidney and Sidney Fire Department, and I honestly just wanted to make sure Sidney had the coverage, surrounding areas had the coverage they needed for EMS service. Sidney EMS started as part of the Sidney Fire Department with the village of Sidney. It was a volunteer agency that actually did about 12 to 1,400 calls a year. They had 3 ambulances and they were very busy, but as the years went along, they started losing because of the training and the commitment, losing paramedics and EMTs, and got down to a minimal staff of just a couple. We are very fortunate to have a lot of good staff, a lot of experience. We have some people that are newly trained, but we have a lot of experienced people, both paramedics and EMTs. We're very fortunate. We have, from the basics, we have drivers that are actually just usually firemen that are a little familiar with ambulances. So we start out with just firemen, drivers, or drivers if they're interested. Then we have EMTs, which takes about 8 months of training. They have to go through 2 to 3 nights a week for 8 months of training, and then have to do ride-alongs with a already assisting ambulance service and do some hospital time. So it takes about almost a year to get just an EMT up to where they can respond on calls. And then there's yearly ongoing training they have to do. It's called CMEs. They have to do yearly training of about 10 to 20 hours on top of everything else. Then we get into the paramedics, which takes about another year of complete classroom training on top of that, and another probably 200 hours of clinical time just to learn that. And then there's another probably 6 months of on the road training with riding with another paramedic. So back in 2015, we turned from a volunteer agency into the Sidney EMS agency. It is now, it's a non-for-profit, which we started providing 24/7, 365-day-a-year service. To be able to keep a service in Sidney 24/7, it's very expensive. And we don't have any taxpayer dollars in any way right now. We actually get our funding from the calls, the insurance companies after the calls, and or any kind of donations or fundraisers we can do. So to keep this kind of service in this area, it's very important to do fundraising and get donations. There's been several instances where Sidney EMS has helped in many ways, not only saving lives, but helping children. I can think of a couple times where Sidney EMS went and realized that the family was in need, and after the call took back personal items and clothing and food and that kind of stuff. The community role has been very positive. I think everybody realizes what an important service it is in both this community and the surrounding communities. We go as far as Afton, Gilbertsville, Oleana, Trout Creek, Deposit. We're kind of all over the area in the 3 counties. But I think everybody realizes how important it is to keep an ambulance service in this area. So it's been very good response. My goal is we will not only have 2 rigs that are 24/7 service for the 911 calls, but we'll have another rig that can do nothing but transports out of the local hospitals, because that's a very big need right now. Hospitals are understaffed and overfull, and patients will sit in a hospital for days waiting for a bed someplace else to get transported out. So there's also a need that we're working on. The advancement in EMS with like anything has gotten very advanced, and you get things like a machine that'll do the CPR for you, but they're about $40,000. And you can get several other advancements. So that's one of the biggest things we do like to keep up in advancement. We do have one of the machines that will do CPR for you. We really would like to get a second one for our second rig. Like I said, they are $40,000. So that is one of our goals for this. We have a very good working relationship with Sidney United Way and the Humane Society that help us out throughout the year. Please help Sidney EMS stay in business. Hopefully it never happens, but if your family member needs an ambulance, let's make sure it's there and can get to you. I would like to thank Jared Lambert and Lambert's Auction Incorporated for considering to be a partner with Sidney EMS, including us in the very important day. One thing I've noticed already with Lambert's that is they are very community oriented, and I think they're going to be a great asset to Sidney in this area.